Welcome to Beans and Breakdowns, a podcast dedicated to bridging the gap between specialty coffee and the heavy music community. On this episode, I'm joined by Jacob, the drummer of the band Mil-Spec. So grab a fresh cup of coffee and wake the fuck up! What's going on, caffeinated crew? On this episode, joined by Jacob from Mil-Spec. Jake Spec, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. And it's been a long time coming. I know we've been talking about this for at least a year, probably.
It's got to be at least a year.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. I think it was actually when Best Wishes and Wildside came through Montreal. And I recognized your face from the pod. And I came up and I punished you on the street there. And we talked about it a little bit then. I think that might have been the first time.
So I remember that. And I felt so bad because you came up to me at Madhouse and you were like, hey. And I was like, I know this guy, but it's fuzzy. Because from that Wildside show to Madhouse, so many things had happened. I had met so many people that I barely remembered that show at all.
That's so funny because you had played it off really well. I had no idea that you're all out of sorts. That's pretty funny to hear.
So the Madhouse was so kind of fucked for me this year because I got asked last minute to do the booth and to make cold brew and do a bunch of shit. I don't even think I had cold brew. So I was just kind of out of sorts a bit. And then it was on the same day that you came up to me because I think y'all played the first day. And I was trying to get my shit together and figure out what I was doing. And then at the same time, you were like, hey, and I was like, I know this guy, but I can't access that storage part of my brain at this moment. So I literally felt so bad. I wasn't trying to be a cool guy or anything.
I had no idea. Straight up. You know what though? That's so funny that you say that because this isn't the first time I've heard okay, something's going on with somebody. Maybe they're having a bad day, or maybe it's somebody who doesn't like me, and I have a conversation with them. I'm like, oh, everything's great. I was so happy to see that person. And then I talk to my friend. They're like, you didn't notice? XYZ was going on with them. I was like, no. They seemed fine. They seemed happy, everything seemed okay. I don't notice this stuff at all. Ever. I just assume that everything's fine.
I feel like that's the best way to go about life though, is to have your my wife calls me a puppy because it's as soon as I meet somebody, they're my friend. We're friends now. Yeah. Unless, it's evident we don't fuck with each other. But for the most part, it's oh, my friend Jacob. And she's you talked to him one time at a show.
That's the meme, right? The guy meme where it's I don't know. Who is that guy? Oh, yeah, we just met him. He's your best friend now. That type of thing. Yeah. I mean, it's true, though. It's true. You really don't need much in common. Wait.
Do you like hardcore? Yes. Do you play drums? Yes. Okay. We're friends now. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Brothers for life.
You play in Mil-Spec. You also play in Best Wishes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's mainly... I would say that's Emmett and Cody's really their project. Got them set up with it, got them started playing some shows. Who knows kind of what the future holds there, but I would say I'm not really involved in the creative stuff on that side. More on Mil-Spec for sure.
So that's your main project at the moment?
Yes. Yeah, big time. I've done other things in the past too, when I have more time, but this year we've been so busy. We did the record at the end of last year. We did a bunch of tours. We went overseas and we're writing new material now. So it's taking up a lot of my creative energy at the moment.
We will definitely get more into that because I want to know what's Mil-Spec got coming, because I've been listening to that album for, I guess, almost a year now. It's been about a year because I talked to Simon from Existence quite a while ago, and he was talking about it. But I definitely want to know what you guys have going on. First things first, What are you drinking?
Yeah, so before we had the call, I mean, I'll just kind of run you through my day, right? So I woke up super early. I got blonde roast at Starbucks. Okay, so that's drink number one, and a ice water from them. Ordered from the app because we had a gift card. Then I had to wait around somewhere for a really long time. So I went to Tim's and I got iced coffee, black, no sugar, medium. Then I came home and I just went to the gym and I had a non-caffeinated pre-workout that was just a pump product, right? So no caffeine in it at all, just to kind of get the vascularity going. Then I came home and I realized, okay, I'm doing a podcast, doing Beans Breakdown, so I need to do something. So I actually went to Montreal a few weeks ago and got a bag of Dispatch. I don't know if you know them or if you like them. Okay, there you go.
Brother.
What's the lore? Yeah.
So I love Dispatch. The reason is because of their traceability. They were like one of the OG shops in Montreal to do really, really, really extensive traceability, direct trade.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. They are the only shop, for the most part, that advertises and opens up monthly cupping to the public.
That's cool. There's a place like that near where I lived during the pandemic that would have cupping classes, barista classes, all that sort of stuff. But when you say traceability, the first thing that immediately comes to mind is, oh boy, what's it called again? Devotion in New York City.
Yeah.
In Brooklyn. Yeah. Devotion. That like blew my mind when I watched like one of their specials. I don't know, it was like on YouTube. I don't know if it was them that produced it, it's an advertisement or what, but like most green coffee that you see at roasteries in North America is like months old, right? Like they get it, it's dried, so it's totally shelf stable. But because they have like those proprietary relationships with logistics people, they're able to get it only a few days later from the farm. And now everybody probably does that. It's probably like super commonplace, but I think they were early on that game. So it's cool to hear that Dispatch does something similar. All that to say, it's the Dispatch seasonal, like spring, summer blend. It's nothing like it's not a single origin, but what is interesting is I'm drinking it out of this cup that I got in Japan when I went, and I brewed it over ice, Japanese style. So it was a Kalita over ice. And now I'm going to pour. I didn't pour it yet. And so that's my favorite way to drink like specialty coffee is hot brew over ice, like more concentrated. And then it kind of dilutes as the ice melts and it just makes it very, very nice. But no, it's very hard to get that out and about. Most places don't do it.
Yeah, especially if you walk up to a shop and you order a Japanese iced coffee, they're going to look at you like you're insane.
I wouldn't ask for like that. I'd be like, oh, can you get a pour over ice or something like that? Nah, most of the time they're like, no, we got cold brew. And I'm like, well, I like cold brew fine, but you miss out on a lot of, I mean, it's got its own thing going on and I like cold brew, but when you're drinking an Ethiopian light roast or something like that, you want to have some of that complexity come through. And it can only come through when you brew hot.
Yeah, you need the bloom to release a lot of that gas to give you a lot of those like crazy floral flavors.
Release a lot of that gas. Yeah, I know a lot about that.
You need to let the gas out.
Yeah.
So I have another question to follow up. I think I have a side question. Why are we not better friends? Because that's like some sleeper shit that I talk about all the time.
What, Japanese iced coffee?
Yeah. So I have a lot of cold brew friends in my life, and I try to tell them like, you're missing out on so much. Like you really are missing out. And they're like, but you can get a Geishan cold brew. And then I slap them. Cause it's like, why would you not heat up? Like, why would you not bloom a geisha? That's crazy.
I think for me, the story is kind of during the pandemic, my girl and I were, locked down together and she likes iced coffee and I like hot coffee and I like to brew it, brew it hot, and she likes it sweet and milky and iced. And so kind of the middle ground was, okay, I've got this set up. We can't go out to get coffee. I'm watching James Hoffman like mainlining his videos, and he did the Kalita ice recipe in like early 2020. And I did it at home, made some slight modifications to it. And that was like during the pandemic and during the lockdown, every single day we'd make 600 mils in the morning. Okay, 39 to 600. Like 220 ice, and then the remainder would be water. And then later on in the afternoon, I would do a second brew because we were both working from home, and 600 really isn't enough for two people for a whole day, honestly. So I do another 5. So all in all, we'd have a 1.1 liters for the day iced, and we got pretty quick at it. And I don't do it as much anymore because I bought like some machine with a big carafe, and I still have my good grinder, right? But I did this today for the pod. It's kind of like a bit of a throwback to those times when I was learning about specialty coffee and getting really into it. Yeah.
So I so appreciate that. First of all, you're checking a lot of boxes here. The Hoff, not the Hoff in Holyoke, but James Hoffman. That could be confusing. The ice pour overs, crazy. In the afternoon, what's the go-to origin?
The go-to origin, like where do I like my coffee from the best?
Yeah, so like usually in the morning you'll do like a kind of you'll do like a certain coffee, in the afternoon maybe you reach for like a different.
Oh no, it's the same. I don't have like multiple things on deck unless one of my very well-meaning and loving family members go on a trip somewhere warm and they bring back, oh, he likes coffee, like I'll just bring back whatever. And as long as it's whole bean, I don't care, because sometimes I appreciate the dark roast sometimes. But there have been times where like my parents have gone and it's pre-ground and, you know, it's not great. Okay. It's not great. Like, let's be real. But I will say my favorite coffee that I've ever had in my life that they no longer make anymore is a Burundi, I think, from Propeller that they made during like 2020. And then they no longer had the relationship with that farm anymore. And so I can tell you the name later. We don't have the Jamie to pull that shit up, unfortunately. But
Jamie, can you pull that up for us?
I'll tell you what it is later. And it was amazing. I heard that they were getting rid of it, and I bought like a bunch of it, but it was good. So basically, like the African lighter roasts is my favorite. Anything with like some stone fruit. This one is like a medium, and it's just kind of like a blend. But I really, really like the African light roast stuff. It's my favorite. How about you?
So yeah, I'll tell you what I'm drinking right now, and this is a little bit out of the ordinary. So do you know Traffic?
I don't really know a ton of the companies unless they're local to Toronto or something. But yes, I don't know Traffic, but lure me. This
is Montreal. It's called Traffic because Montreal.
That's funny.
And this is their Pompilio Ramos. It is a Honduran coffee. It's washed, and it's got like s'mores, juniper berries. I don't know what Slick Snooker is. I think that's an inside joke because Traffic does a lot of that funny, stupid shit. But I love their packaging. Like, it always kind of sticks out. They just did a revamp too, so they're doing like all over print bags.
That's cool.
Which is sick. And so usually this is the kind of coffee I would drink in the morning. I would drink a V60. I do the James Hoffman 5-pour 16-to-1 ratio. And so I would usually do like what?
No, that's awesome.
Oh,
I love that.
I would do like a South American, more kind of traditional, nuttier, chocolatier coffee in the morning. And afternoon, I reach for those earthy, floral Ethiopians. Even if it's like a South American that's like anaerobic or fermented or something, even better.
Yeah.
Super
interesting.
Like, skittly tasting, if that makes sense.
It does. And one thing I'll note too is my experience, I don't know if this is scientific, but I find the African light roast stuff, it feels like it has more caffeine in it than the stuff from South America. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but just one thing I've noticed. Like, the lighter the roast, the more jittery it makes me.
We need a video from like Lance or James to tell us, like, hey, why is the African light roast make me more jittery than the light roast?
He's your boy, James.
Yo, James. First of all,
it's like me referring to Ian Mackay as Ian, like in passing. You know, it's kind of funny. I do the same thing.
If you saw Ian Mackay, what would you call him? Mr. Mackay?
Probably should. I think he deserves that much.
How about Keith Morris?
No, yeah, he's Keith for sure. For sure, yeah, he's just Keith. Yeah,
he's just Keith.
That's fine. But I've also, I think I mentioned to you when I saw you last, I'd been drinking yerba out of the like the gourd, and I have the bombilla and everything. So I've been enjoying that too, because the coffee in my office now really stinks. Like my old place, it was Mocha Master with a pilot subscription. So, and we had like a very good grinder. So it was like amazing. And now it's just kind of like, whatever offices have. So to get around that, I've just been drinking yerba mate, which I can ensure the quality of because I just bring my stuff with me.
And all you need is water, hot water.
Yeah, that's it.
I was working at a music store during the pandemic for like a stint, and by stint I mean like a week. And two guys in the back were from Argentina, and they would always be drinking.
Cool.
In the afternoon, they would be drinking yerba mate, and I was like,
"Oh, that's awesome!
That's serious business right there."
Would they have one that they'd share? Or do they both have a gourd?
They both had their gourd, and it was like hand carved with their name on it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Mine's just like, whatever, stainless steel. I wish it was one of those cool ones, like the messy one. Anyway.
Yeah, you got to go down to Buenos Aires and get your hand carved Jacob.
I wish. I mean, like everything, even with, I don't know, this is like a totally side, unrelated conversation, but just because inflation's been so bad there, you can get a very, very, very nice dinner for like 5 CAD.
Let's go.
It's kind of like the same thing with Japan. I mean, everything there is very cheap right now just because their currency is, doing quite poorly. But Buenos Aires, you could live like a king.
You play drums?
I sure do. Yes,
you sure do. When did you start playing drums?
I was about 11 years old. I can give you, I mean, it's not that interesting of a story, but yeah, so it was about 11. I kind of really wanted to play an instrument, and it's kind of funny. I really wanted to play the guitar, but I thought the drums would be easier. And so that was like my thing. I was not really, I just knew I wanted to do something because I like music. I liked, rock and metal and all sorts of stuff like that. And a couple of my friends played instruments too, and Guitar Hero was like really popular. So that was like obvious. But then I was like, okay, it's going to be way too hard. It's the same reason why I chose skiing over snowboarding, because I was like, okay, you've got poles in skiing. Like I'm not going to fall. And the drumming, I'm like, okay, there's no way I can remember all the notes. Like I'll try drumming. Meanwhile, it's it's hard in its own way. And I think I'm more personally hardwired to do drums. I think it actually, if you take a look at a cross section of all the drummers that are out there, there's a lot of personality traits that are shared, which is like really funny, but it's just true. And I'm glad I made the decision. But the stuff that I was super excited about playing when I started doing the drums was like stuff that I wouldn't have been able to play right away. Like I was at that time in my life, I was really into both like Green Day and Fall Out Boy and Nirvana and like that type of rock, but also like Lamb of God, Children of Bodom. Like I was more into metal at that time in my life than I was like the other stuff. And my drum teacher was a 1980s metal guy who would come over to my parents' place and teach me. So yeah, that's it. I thought it'd be easier, and then I gave my parents hell, right, because it's just so loud. Yeah, and that's the story, really.
And then every band you're in jams at your house.
Yeah, at least when you're a kid. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, so true.
You remember your first kit?
Yeah. Of course, I got it for $100. It was a CB. I think that's probably a pretty universal story, unless you get lucky. But it was a blue CB, and I had that kit. The cymbals were just like whatever came with it. And then I, like in the 8th grade, I got like a pasty Rude, like that really thick ride. And I had like the Joey Jordison snare. And so that gear I had all the way into Mil-Spec days. Like from the 8th grade all the way up until like, a year into the band. Like when we did America's Hardcore, I played it with a pasty Rude and the Joey Jordison snare. I'm not joking. And I had that CD kit up until like, I don't know, 2018, 2017.
Oh my God.
When I bought Shane from Wildside at the time's Tama, and that's what I have to today. But I really got my money's worth from that CB. And it was bad, but you could make it sound good with the right, new heads and tape and fooling around with it.
Tell you, people underestimate the worth of new heads. It can completely change the sound of the drum.
especially in hardcore, like when you're playing shows and the kit is not mic'd and all that sort of stuff, like it's just the attack. So you just need it to sound okay. You need a good shoo, right? And it wasn't until a little bit later that I got into gear and when we started recording. So I think like the first thing that I actually recorded at a studio, not like just demo stuff where the sound actually mattered. And I think it was the first thing I recorded with that new kit was when I temporarily joined Demolition near the end of the band to play drums, and their drummer played bass in the band. And so I recorded some songs with them, and that was like the first thing I used my new kit for. And after that experience, I was like, okay, I need to buy new stuff. Like I need to really invest in this. And that's when I kind of got more into cymbals and more into snares and ended up getting like better gear over time. I can go into that stuff too, but that was being mic'd and actually having to hear something was really like the first time I was like, okay, let's take this a little bit more seriously. Because I used the cymbals in the studio and I was like, this stuff's awesome. They were all like Zildjian Constantinople cymbals, like good stuff. And then during the pandemic, I got really in. I don't know if I'm going like too far ahead or if you're going to ask other questions and stop me anytime. But during the pandemic, I got more into cymbals and I got into old stuff, jazz stuff that you really shouldn't be playing hardcore in. And where I kind of landed in terms of like my favorite stuff is there's some really interesting Zildjian Ks that are like seconds or like Sound Lab prototype stuff that I found on Kijiji. From Montreal, actually, there's a guy who I bought a bunch of stuff, but there's no logos or anything on it. So they like look very clean. And this dude, I don't know if he buried them, but there was like a lot of patina on them. And then where I also landed in terms of my favorite sound that mixes like everything that's great about the old vintage jazz stuff with everything that's great about rock cymbals is UFIP and Italian cymbals. And watch, after this airs, there's like five of them that are ever available. Now the price is going to go up, okay? Whatever. So don't start buying them. But UFIP and Spizzichino and all of those other brands are like really, really cool. And you can find UFIPs that are used for very little money because it's not a big name. And that's my current ride is a UFIP. I have hats that are UFIP hats, and I really, really like them. They've got an interesting, complex sound that works for both hardcore and other stuff too. Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, I'll be honest. So if anybody listening, so the Joey Jordison snare, I wish you still had it because I'd buy it off of you.
I sold it for so much money.
Yeah,
I sold it for like $400, but I feel like they're worth more now because it's like maybe more collectible since he passed.
Well, if it's so, I saw one in Ottawa like maybe 6 months ago, and it had a bent rim, which you can like 100% fix. And he was selling it for $200, and I really am kicking myself in the ass for not just snagging that. Because
oh my god, I just opened up another tab, and Long McQuaid is out of stock, but they sell them new for $649.
What's Reverb got him?
You know what? I probably think it's a bad idea to start pulling stuff up. I know I'm just going to drop the call, and that would be really bad. But if you're interested, you can look it up. Yeah, I wouldn't. You'll find one, and really, like, they're cool. And if you like Slipknot, yes, I think it's really cool. But I think you can get probably something better for the money. Honestly,
yeah.
It depends on what type of sound you're going for. It depends what type of sound you're going for. Really, like it's a higher pitch snare.
Yeah. So it's I can't find any for sale. Not even one. Not even a single one. That's great. So that sucks. But I think the most resembling, and it's way more expensive though, it's that Sonic Steel from Tama, the new SLP one.
Okay.
Do you follow Craig Reynolds at all?
I don't know who that is. I'm sorry.
He's the drummer for Stray from the Path, but he's like always streaming on Twitch and like YouTube and stuff.
Playing
I don't
drums?
watch Twitch. I watch YouTube. Yeah, he plays drums like on YouTube streams, and he like has the Downbeat podcast and stuff like that.
Okay, that's cool. I should check that out. But yeah, I always consider them to be like a high pitched piccolo snare band.
Yeah, it's very tightly tuned.
Yeah. What I'm running now for snare is a Tama Imperial Star, which is like an all steel, just very classic, very, very heavy rim. And the sound that I tend to get out of it is like as close to, like the Pain Cave recording studio where all that like Boston stuff's recorded, like from the 2000s, where it kind of sounds like I don't want to like mimic the sound right now, but it's kind of similar to that, but it also has like old kind of metal, like it's very loud. It can be very loud and boomy if you really wanted to, but it's very versatile. What I didn't like about the Joey Jordison was that it was kind of, you can only get one thing out of it, which is like a very pingy. But it works for some stuff, and it would work for your band, and it would work for people who are trying to play really heavy stuff, of course.
Yeah. So like I had to try to mimic the sound because I demoed with Drive By like a couple months ago, and I play an 8x14 Ludwig steel snare because I bought it when I was playing in church.
Oh, whoa! We gotta talk about that. But anyway, yeah.
So I'm just gonna. So I'll lay this out. I'm really happy that you got on the jazz stuff because for me, I was playing in church for like a long time. I kind of was away from hardcore just for a bit because I was a worship
gospel
pastor.
Chops.
Wait,
you're a worship pastor?
I was a worship pastor.
Whoa! What denomination?
It's
or is that non-denominational? Interesting.
But I grew up
interesting.
Pentecostal.
So did I.
No way.
Yeah, but I just got baptized Anglican, so things have changed.
You just got baptized Anglican?
Yeah.
You go to church?
Like not really very often, like holidays and stuff. But I'm getting married in an Anglican church and had never gotten baptized before. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to get into that. But I grew up Pentecostal, and then I went to ministry school and became a worship pastor for some years.
Oh wow, I had no idea.
But at the time I had a 1950s Slingerland kit that was rebuilt.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, it was the most beautiful sounding drum kit. 20 by 14 kick, 14, 12 by 8. 12 by 8 is the greatest rack tom size ever made. We can fist fight anybody who disagrees. But then like the cymbals, 22, 20, 21.
That's classic for worship, right? They're all like massive, very washy, huge cymbals.
No ping, not at all, just wash.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, I run 22, and then I run two 19s, and then I've got 14-inch hats. My tom is super deep, but it's a 14, my rack, and my floor is like 20. I swear it was like a bass drum or something at some point. It can be floppy if you don't know how to rate it in. But yeah.
Have you put an EMAT on it?
I don't know what that is, but I know how to tune it pretty decently, but I don't know what an EMAT is.
So the EMAT is the Evans kick drum head, like the one that's got the big fat ring around it.
I've got Aquarium on it.
Oh, I haven't used the only Aquarium I've used recently is the Super Kick 2, which I like.
Yeah, I like it too. I have that one.
Super clicky.
Yeah.
What series of Tama are you playing?
Art Star.
Oh,
it's like an 80s. It's like an 80s Art Star.
I need to play that kit one day.
It's funny that you say that because it's the one that's set up as like the backline kit in our jam space, which we share with like, a million bands. I could go into who's all in there, but there was one guy in Japan that like came up to the merch table who I guess lived in Toronto, maybe going to school there or something, and recorded there once because Micah from Montreal records bands in our jam space. He comes up to me. He's like, "You're Jacob from Mil-Spec, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I recorded 2 weeks ago on your drum kit." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Is it the jam space in Welland?
No, it's in Toronto. This is we used to be in one with shit and fucked up on Geary that closed and is becoming C3, which is like kind of a Pentecostal church, and so that's unfortunate. They like bulldozed the building. They're like building a church there now, and then the tenants that had been in that room were in there since like the early 2000s, and our rent was nothing, and nobody was ever in there. Like, was mainly the other bands mainly used it as a storage unit, so I was in there like 4 times a week or something like that. It was amazing. And then the new one is like a new space that got built in response to that one closing, and we share it with like 7 bands. Everybody has a dedicated day. It's like 3 times the money per band. Like, it's Not great, but it's what we have. But anyway, yeah, that's the story.
There's been scares of our spot closing down, Cite.
Are you in the one with all the? It's like a storage unit.
Yeah, it's all the story. It's the U-Haul, like the building next to U-Haul.
Yeah. I've been there once to help like load in and load out after a show at Casa some years ago.
Mm-hmm. We share a space with that band Death Nap. I don't know if you're familiar. Cool. They've been a band for like a while. But
nice.
Then there's like, it's like us and Cloned Apparition and like,
okay.
I think Drive By is also in there. But yeah, it's like fucking great room. I don't even know how they got it.
No, don't question it. Just appreciate it.
No, yeah,
Clone Apparition covers later era Mental live.
Yes,
I heard they did. Future Waves or something like that in Toronto. I didn't go to the show, but one of my friends went and he told me about it. I couldn't believe it.
You want to know why?
Why?
Because Alec is like, for some reason, knows everything about late 90s, early 2000s straight edge youth crew, and he's also straight edge, but he's like a 22-year-old hardcore prodigy.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it fits with what they're doing. I've listened to their music before. It fits. And that's so funny that you say that, because right now too, I don't know the names of the bands, but there's kind of like a scram scene that's been growing in the States, like on the West Coast, but also on the East. And there's bands from like, I think Wilkes-Barre or DC, actually from DC, that cover like that type of stuff. And they're like screamo bands, like covering like straight edge hardcore, and it's like very sick.
That's so strange.
Yeah. I'm surprised some of the bands are probably playing the fest in Toronto this weekend, right? With like Jerome Stream and everything.
Oh, is it New Friends?
No, it's not New Friends. It's Prepare the Ground. Orchid was like headlining.
Yep.
They're playing tonight. Yep. Botfly, who I went and saw last night with Ankle Biter, played tonight as well.
Where was the Botfly show?
Tonight or last night?
Last night.
Last night was at Toronto Style.
We when we were on our way back from St. Catharines, they were playing Kingston as we were like passing through, so we all met up.
Oh, whoa!
And
cool.
Had lunch.
Where'd you go? In Kingston. I've spent a lot of time there. My sister goes to school there.
Kingston Burger Company. It's do you know Mitch from Trauma Model?
No. But that sounds
awesome. He's wild. He's wild. But it's a smash burger spot.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Everything's like really well handpicked. Good stuff. You're not. Are you straight edge?
Oh, big time. Big.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was gonna say they have good beers too, but never mind.
Hey, I mean, that's great. I'm glad that they have good beers.
They do.
Cool.
It's fun being in a band with two straight edge people because we always have designated drivers.
Yeah, we're the same thing. We're 6 people, right? And so 4 of us are edge and 2 of us aren't. And if we get like 10 drink tickets, those dudes are like in heaven, right? Because they just get them all. And then they get to pass out in the car. Although I'll say, Dan, on the record, is the best co-pilot. Even when he's blitzed, he will stay up with you through a night drive, have the best conversations ever. So, he really, it doesn't set him back at all. Obviously, he can't drive, right? But it doesn't set him back to help.
To be fair, like I never tried, like I'm never aiming to get drunk. Like I don't like being drunk, and I honestly don't like drinking while we're out doing a run of shows because it makes me feel bad the next day, and I feel like it doesn't allow me to have the same energy and like experience as if I were sober minded. So
yeah,
that's kind of like I'll drink with my wife when we're hanging out, but like on the road, I really don't tend to like go out of my way to drink.
You know how we played together, like Mil-Spec hopped on that show last week, and we did that fest earlier in the day with Monine and Cancer Bats and et cetera, Indian Giver and a few others. There was like a brewery from my town were the ones that were doing like that, like setting it all up. It's called Town Brewery. And they actually did a beer for the fest, and our band name was on the side of it. And so that was like the first time that I think we were on a beer, which was pretty cool. honestly. I just wish it was a non-alc, but we got a couple of them to take for posterity's sake.
So let me ask you this. Would you prefer to be on the side of a non-alcoholic beer or on the side of a can of cold brew coffee?
Oh, interesting. This is a side conversation, okay? I don't care. I think they're both cool. I'll just go ahead and say that. I can't make a decision there. Probably cold brew coffee. I would say regular beer and then cold brew coffee, because non-alcoholic beer, I would rather be associated with a regular beer than a non-alcoholic beer. Because I think non-alcoholic beer...
Yeah, it's a cop-out.
Yeah, it's kind of lame. Like, I like them. I will not deny it. I will get one. When I was in East Coast Canada, I had a non-alc Guinness, and it was like pretty amazing, honestly. But yeah, I would say first it'd be real beer, and then it would be a can of cold brew. But one thing that I always find interesting, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit, is bands that will do like some sort of coffee. When we played, so we did a tour with Shelter right before the pandemic. We did like a weekend with them, and as part of it, we did Keystone Hardcore Festival. And from the Wisdom and Chains merch table, I bought they have their own coffee. It's like an almond infused Wisdom and Chains coffee.
Keep saying what you're saying. I can hear you.
And do you literally have it? Anyway, yeah, it was like an almond infused Wisdom and Chains coffee, and we didn't bring it home or brew it because, all right, I mean, this is on the record. Total respect to those guys. Like, love that band, but it probably wasn't going to be a coffee that I liked. You literally have it, and it's unopened on the record.
And it's pre-ground, which is why it's also unopened.
It smells crazy, right?
Keep saying what you're saying about it.
Anyway, we kept it in our jam space as like kind of just something to have around for like a few years. And then when they went to demolish the jam space, it just went with it. Like we didn't end up drinking it, but I think it's pretty cool that it exists.
I bought it. So I had Dead Sled, the guys who make this coffee. I had Mike, one of the founders, on the podcast like 3 years ago, which is weird for me to say that I've been doing this podcast for 3 years almost. So this was the only, I got this and another one, which was their,
I can't believe they still make it.
So I can't either. But then I also had Luke on the podcast from Wisdom and Chains to talk about him. He was the one that like gave them all the notes that they wanted in this coffee. So he was like, I wanted
the
it to taste like
amaretto
an
thing
S. Yeah, the S cookie.
I mean, good for them. It's just obviously people have different tastes. But anyway,
this is not for me. I got this because it says Wisdom and Chains and it has all of them on it, and I think it looks
that's
sick.
why we bought it. That's why we bought it also.
But honestly, this smells like a cup of coffee that I've had at Pilot when it was the only thing, like a Pilot gas station.
Yeah. Okay. Not Pilot coffee roasters.
Sorry.
Yeah. Literally, like it's something that you would get that's like it's infused with something. You know, it's anyway. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, which is probably very true to the Philly, right? Like you get that at a gas station on the side of the road in Philly or something. Anyway.
Yeah. Straight up.
Hate. No hate. I have to keep saying that, but no hate. Seriously, I think it's awesome.
No, straight up, it's very cool. Like honestly, if they were like, oh, we want to do a bruiserweight coffee, I'd be like, hell yeah, let's fucking do it. But then I'm not going to do a flavored like it's not in our band's zeitgeist to do that.
No.
It'll be like
that's so funny.
A blend for doing cold brew or some shit like that.
All right, I got to ask. We can go back and forth. Just let's do a couple of these, but like name a hardcore band and then name the main notes, the main tasting notes. I'll start. I'll name a band. You name the main tasting notes. We'll just do like one each.
Okay.
All right. Let's just make it easy. All right. Madball. What does the Madball coffee taste like? And where's the origin?
Madball? So there's no traceable origin for Madball's coffee.
There.
I will say, I'll put respect. He's not in the band anymore, but Hoya, he was a coffee guy, and he likes like cappuccinos, but he would get like El Salvadorian
so it's an espresso.
Coffee. Yeah, they're an espresso. That's an espresso
Dude,
band.
And it's the brick. You know, like the vacuum sealed pre-bagged espresso brick?
Cafe Bustelo.
Is that what it's called? Yeah. Anyway, the brick,
Like the
this
yellow
vacuum
Cuban
seal.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's the
That's so
coffee.
funny. Yeah, that's their coffee.
Okay.
Set off your morning, right?
Yeah.
Set off your
Straight up,
morning. Set it
set
off.
it off. Set it off in
Yeah.
a mocha pot.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see if I can think of a good band.
Please
Of
pick a
what
band that I know. Also,
Okay.
something that's in my pocket.
Yeah. So something like locking out. Well, we don't have to do a locking
Or
out
old.
band.
Or old. Hey, I know old stuff.
We'll
Whatever.
do old. This is gonna be like a very 7 seconds.
The 7 seconds coffee. Oh my goodness. Well, I have a feeling that. Oh my goodness, this is interesting.
I feel like they don't even drink coffee, but I feel
No,
like
they definitely don't. That's why I was going to say it's like it only whatever the brew is. Like let's like put a pin in that for a second. It can only be drank with like I don't know whipped cream. Like it's going to be very sweet, but with like soy milk. You know what I mean? I just have a feeling it's going to be very sweet with soy milk, very little coffee. Maybe it's more tea or something like that.
yeah.
But yeah, I would say also probably no traceability, but it's whole bean for sure. It's whole bean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a whole bean
is.
band.
That's a whole bean band. That's funny.
Let's do one more round.
One more round. Okay, then we can do it
Newer
together.
bands though. We don't have to go back to the 80s.
Interesting. Okay, newer bands. Can't be something that's active, or else we might get our asses kicked. Anyway,
Madball's active. I just played with them last year.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. Let me think for 1 second. Something that would like actually be interesting to discuss. All right, we can't have any dead air. What's the turnstile coffee?
It's overpriced.
Oh, but it's good. It's good.
It's quality. It's definitely a single origin. I'd probably go something like anaerobic, probably from like Costa Rica. It tastes like
Oh, for sure. For sure.
but it's like high dollar, like really, really high quality coffee, but overpriced.
I have a feeling too that like the main way that people consume it is through one of those subscription things.
like trade.
Yeah. Like you only get a little bit every single week or something like that, and that's not. I don't know why that I just imagined that, but that's probably how it is. You know, I used to do a fanzine, and as part of it, I would do a section which was like the Dungeons and Dragons moral alignment in New York hardcore bands. And so this is like kind of similar to that, where you've got like chaotic evil being sheer terror, right? And lawful good being youth of today. Yep. And kind of everything else in between. Like sheer neutral is like outburst, or, you know, and chaotic neutral is breakdown, right? I don't care who's wrong and who's right. I just want to see a street fight.
That's so funny. That's crazy.
I send you scans.
I do like send me some scans. I do like the coffee comparisons. So last one we'll do. I'll say oh fuck, I had one. Oh, speed. What is the speed coffee?
Oh, I mean, it's got to have a lot of caffeine in it. Like it's going to be a light roast, although like, you know what? It's a blend. There's a dark and there's a light. So it's like a pure medium, but it's got a lot of caffeine. They're Australian, right?
Yeah.
They're known for their coffee culture. So it's definitely it's not a blend. It's definitely a single origin. I have a feeling that it's African. And I also have a feeling that how it's served is, do you know what a red eye is?
Yeah.
I don't know if they do that over there, but it's a pour over and then you've got an espresso shot in there and it's from the same coffee.
Yeah.
That's how I would characterize speed.
I would go even one step further into the red eye and do a cold brew with a double shot.
Yeah.
Like just
I have a feeling that they're
unhinged.
caffeine junkies. Yeah.
Yeah.
One that we
That's
can
good.
save for later, just for the viewers to think about, is what would the kickback coffee be? And I have a feeling that they would be spiked with something.
It's violent. It's violent.
Yeah,
it
it's
makes you want to
disgusting.
fight.
Yeah. And spiked with like an upper and a downer.
There's like a rudeness there with it.
Oh yeah. It's nasty. Like it's spoiled.
Kickback, I love kickback so much. I've grown very fond of a head bussa as well.
I can't say no about.
You should check out
Have
head
you ever
bussa.
listened to them? Sorry. I will. I was going to say that.
Yeah.
No, go finish. It's all good.
You just do it.
Well, it's all this caffeine that's making me do this, but they have a side band, which I don't know how many members are in it, but I think it just might be their guitarist called. It's like a black metal band called Diap Secure. Do you know them? Mm-mm. If you have ever heard about their show that they played, like there's like an infamous show where there's like lots of photos that exist on a photo bucket. I don't know if you've seen them or know about this, but like Gaspar Noé, the director, was supposed to film it. And apparently it all got filmed and never got released just because for whatever reason. You could look it up later. But this was Kickback and Diap Secure playing. And Diap Secure, if I had to describe them, it is like black metal, but not like out in the wilderness. It's like urban decay, like wet, nasty streets with like, you know, cobblestones. Like that's kind of the way I would describe it, and very much like drug induced, like that type of stuff. They have one song which the main riff in like the opening breakdown to the song is they're just playing the Godfather theme on the guitar. It's really weird stuff, but it's cool.
That's crazy.
Anyway, talking about that makes me think about that, and you should probably check that stuff out.
Yeah, I'm not a huge black metal fan. My wife is a really big black metal fan. Well, like atmospheric black metal. So
yeah, I mean, this stuff is really crazy. Like I have only listened to it a little bit, but it's part of that like universe of things because it's Kickback related.
French,
but because it's Kickback related, it's chaotic.
Yeah. French hardcore side projects.
Yeah, exactly.
Where was I gonna segue? The caffeine has just completely fucked my brain at this point.
Yeah, me too. It's okay. Let's go for it.
So in regards, you're not from like the Niagara region. You're from like the GTA region.
Yeah, like the eastern side. So like Durham, Oshawa, Whitby, that type of thing.
Whitby, decent coffee.
Where are you getting a decent cup of coffee in Whitby?
I will tell you right now. Fuck, I can't look it up.
I mean, there's a spot downtown, but it's like just okay.
The garage spot?
Yeah, it's fine. It's like way too expensive, and they do just espresso drinks. I'm gonna say that place is woaded and not goated.
It is woaded. So I went there. I actually got my cat from a breeder in Newcastle. Not Newcastle. Okay. Yeah, Newcastle. Isn't it right there in the Durham region?
Yeah, it's a little east of there, but yeah.
Port Hope-ish. So we went to get coffee there. I literally read a review with my eyeballs that said, I've been all around the world. I've traveled all around the world, and this is the best coffee I've ever had. And I like read that review, and I was like, this is probably not true. But it's the only coffee anywhere within a 15-minute drive. So we went there, and it was, in fact, not the best coffee in the whole world.
Yeah, the spot you're talking about is jacked up, I think.
Yes.
I can't believe somebody said that was the best. It's like, it's fine, you know? Oh, I see it. The best place tasting flat white we've had anywhere. That might be the same review you're talking about.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's not that great. Like, it's just a little bit too far for me for it to be like my local. Mm-hmm. And there is a roastery right by my place, which is like half decent. They actually roast in the store. And it's like a 2-minute walk from my house. So that's where I'll tend to go. I'll text you what it is. But yeah.
Okay. I don't want to dox yourself. Yeah. There's another one that I saw in my last, like and you don't have to say if this is the one or not. But I found one, not fucking Bridgehead. I know that he's going to hear it. Oh, sorry. It wasn't where I thought it was. Hatch is in Markham, and I didn't realize
Yeah. So that used to be near where I used to live. I would go to Hatch all the time. And that's the place. There's Hatch, there's Social. There's a couple of groceries in Markham, which are really, really solid. And Hatch does a lot of private labeling for people.
Really?
So they have like this huge facility. Yeah. They had this huge facility where I will go and like get Christmas presents for people. And in the back, you can see like the massive factory where they do a lot of bottling because they make a lot of cold brew products that get served in stores and stuff. And it's pretty great. Like I missed living near there. During the pandemic, it was awesome. I would go, I would like drop coin there. I got my Clever there, like the Clever brewer, which I spilled and gave myself like a 3rd-degree burn on my arm that is still like a scar to this day. It's massive. It's like the size of my hand. I don't mess with the Clever at all.
No,
for
you
that
just
reason.
stopped. Did it like it scared you?
Yeah, I
that
threw it
bad?
away. Yeah, I
Fuck.
threw it away. It's too top heavy.
Yeah, so I don't have a carafe right now, and my wonderful, beautiful boy of a cat has broken my. There you go. Like the Kalita decanter or the server is really good. I also love. I'm about to order a Kinto slow pour, like their amber looking one. I just think it looks so good. But also
that one's cool.
the V60 decanter that looks kind of like a Chemex, but it's not.
Yeah.
That's my favorite one. I love it. But my cat broke it.
Yeah, that one's cool.
'cause he was being wild. So right now I'm using a French press
Oh, you're using French press to brew into. That's amazing.
to brew into. I do not brew with a French press. And this is today I did the Hario Mugen. It's a 1-pour brewer. So it brews in about
That's
90
cool.
seconds.
That's awesome.
So it was great. I was obviously rushing. But yeah.
Let's chat some hardcore. I'm kind of coffeeed out here. Let's go some hardcore.
We've really pushed the boundaries on the coffee talk. When you were getting into the scene, who was the heavy hitter for you? I would say locally. Let's keep it local.
Yeah. So the story there is, I think everybody has a very similar story. I'll kind of go back, like Dan and I, just like the guitarist in Mil-Spec, met at summer camp, like a rock and roll summer camp when I was in the 8th grade. And we were in the same band. We did a Silverstein cover. And prior to that was really like an important time because one of our camp counselors was like a straight edge girl who was wearing a Bane sweater all the time. And so she kind of got us into that and introduced me to what straight edge was, which that summer between grade 8 and grade 9 kind of changed everything for me. And that was when I discovered at that time, like, Hap Hard and Champion and Youth of Today and Rhino Threat and all of those bands. And I also really liked heavy stuff still. So like all the X Band X stuff I really liked, like Death Star and all the Seventh Dagger stuff and Life Ruiner even, which I don't know if you read their Reddit AMA a little while ago with the one guy, but it is insane. Anyway,
That's crazy.
So that was all that sort of stuff. And just prior to that summer camp, the stuff that I was most into was like, it ran the gamut from like deathcore to death metal to black metal to like southern hardcore, like Holly Springs and stuff like that. And earlier that year, we're talking like when I was in the 8th grade, I went to a couple of really pivotal shows, which was Holly Springs played in Whitby, Abandon All Ships played in Whitby, like These Silhouettes played in Whitby, like all of these bands that came through were like super big and important. Just prior to me really getting into the local scene, it was like a big treat to like go to a show like that. It was like a big event. That summer I went and saw 6 Tier Guns in Toronto, which was pretty big. And then in the fall, I kind of got more into the local stuff when I started my first band, which played with like Uplift a lot. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
Do you know Uplift?
Yeah.
So that was like the big band at the time. I don't know how much of a mark they left on me personally, but they were like the older guy, like the old heads that, you would see their singer like wearing a Righteous Jam shirt. And then my band would kind of bump elbows with like Planet Danger and Barry, like the Odd Time or Shut Eyes, which was from up there. And all of these people that I'm mentioning that are like a few years older would end up becoming like really good friends of mine and be in Mil-Spec eventually. It's like funny how that sort of works out. Dan's band and my band would always play together in like 2009, 2010, 11 sort of thing. And a bit of a funny story that I'll tell you, which was I booked like my 16th birthday show in 2011, and it was like pretty stacked with like a bunch of local bands. There's a band called Troubled Minds, which was on Climbing Aboard Records. Have you heard of Climbing Aboard Records? They're like Niagara based that put out like all of that stuff from back then. Like, all of those bands. They played, the headliner was Rhinoceros from Buffalo, like a big straight edge band.
Yeah, I know Rhinoceros.
there was like 10 bands that played the show, like mostly all local stuff, but it was like the first time I had booked a show and the first time I kind of was more of an active participant. And I did a few shows in the years following in Durham. They're all kind of like hardcore shows, but that was like pretty big to show that, okay, you know, when the rubber hits the road, you can really like make something cool. The years that followed, you know, I did a couple of other bands, switched from my first band to a hardcore band called Head Check, which was basically like Locking Out Worship that I sang for, which there's a bit of Montreal interesting stuff here because there's another band called Head Check from Montreal that was active at the exact same time as us.
I didn't know that.
Which was pretty funny. There was always a little bit of a beef because it's like we would hear about a show in Montreal. People would be like, oh, are you playing? I was like, no, I'm not. It's not us. It's somebody else. Yeah. Yeah, no, would book shows in Oshawa all the time back then, or well, be involved a lot. Did a couple, booked Demolition very early on in their career. And that's where I met LaForge, who is in Mil-Spec, plays guitar. I met him at one of the shows that I had booked in Oshawa. And that's when he approached me being like, do you want to be in a straight edge band? And it wasn't called Mil-Spec yet, but we kind of started to our conversations then.
So I have a couple of questions about Mil-Spec. But the first question, and I'm sure that y'all get asked this like all the fucking time. Why 3 guitars?
Yeah, that kind of is a little bit of a newer development. I don't know the first time that we did it, but I think it was so during 2022 in the spring, right after the pandemic, our first like fly and do something was playing with Military Gun. We did like 4 or 5 days with them in California. And LaForge couldn't go on the trip. So we got a fill-in to play bass, and Cody moved to second guitar. So we got Brandon, singer of Wildside, to play bass. And for all the shows, that was kind of our lineup. But then at the very last minute, Matt, who couldn't go on the tour, could come and play the LA show. And we're like, we're not going to make our fill-ins sit out. Like, let's just do this. So we did 3 guitars there, and it was really, really cool. And then subsequent to that, we were recording Marathon, and we played the next few shows because it kind of worked out. Like the odd time, whenever Brandon was free, we would have a third guitar player, and it was just really cool. And then we kind of arranged the songs for that upcoming record and thought of writing it with like lots of guitar layers. You can probably hear some of that, especially on songs like Who Is Who are kind of unplayable with less than 3. Not to mention, it's a little bit, there is a precedent for doing 3 guitars in Toronto. Like, I don't know if you like the band Fucked Up, but they're all like really important to us. And they had or have 3 guitars. And it's very, very cool. You can have one person playing the rhythm, one playing the leads, and then one doing like something else that's interesting and really fills the room up. That's kind of the genesis of that. But it's a pain in the neck to get around. You can't fit in a 5-person car, right? So you can't, and you know, everybody who books you, if they were trying to provide a backline, like it's more complicated, but it's been working so far. So yeah, that's kind of the story there. It just kind of happened, and then we just kept going because we liked the guy, and I think it works.
It definitely stands out. It's it's like a lot of people on stage, especially at like a smaller show. It's crazy.
Yeah, we've barely been able to fit a couple times. There was one show that we played with. We did like a tour with Narrowhead, and it was in Philly, I think. We played at this really old club that had a very, very small stage from back in the days when the drum kits were like very small. And we couldn't even really fit. Like, we were bumping up against each other, which is like people will hit each other's tuning pedals and will turn each other off. Like, it happens almost every gig. So yeah, just stuff like that happens all the time, but whatever.
It's fun. Is there like a assigned seating that y'all have to do on stage where it's like these 2 members have to stand next to each other and these 2 because they're so used to like interacting?
Yeah, probably, but I'm like not involved in that at all. I don't care. I just focus on my own stuff. Like, okay, is the kick drum sliding forward every time I touch it? Is the seat falling down every second? Like, I mean, you know, like you've got to be vigilant when you play the drums, especially when you're on tour.
The snare stand. One time I was using a dude's hardware. This is like why I stopped using people's hardware. Is I'm playing, and then all of a sudden I realize that my snare is being choked. I'm like, why is my snare being choked? I look under the screw that holds the basket upright, you know, that screws into the stand like
Yeah.
thingy,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
popped out. It's gone. So the whole thing is like the stand doesn't work as a basket anymore. It's just like a spider looking thing.
flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even flat, like sub flat.
Oh, inverted.
Yeah, it was inverted. So I had to like
Oh my
luckily I had a
gosh.
multi-tool, so I had to screw the screw back in. But I'm like, brother, you can't go around with hardware like this. You need to go to Steve's and buy a cheap snare stand.
I don't think people really appreciate how much a drummer has to go through. We can just put this out, but like, I don't know about you, but I basically have like a tackle box worth of crap that I bring with me, just like belts, wing nuts, like screws, screwdrivers. Like I get in trouble at airports every time I go on with like my bag because they have to look through it all. I'm just like, I'm a drummer, you wouldn't get it, but like this is necessary. And I have so many felts on me, like and wing nuts, like I'll just leave and sleeves, like for cymbal stands, I'll like leave stuff at venues and I'll just like let people have stuff because I'm like, I just want you to improve your life here. I can see you're in a bit of a tough spot. Like just keep this. Hopefully this helps you out. And yeah, I don't know. Do you carry around a bunch of stuff with you?
Yeah, in my stick bag, I always have at least 2 to 3 plastic sleeves with felts.
Yeah. Necessary.
Even if I don't have a wing nut, it's not the end of the world. I need the plastic sleeve so I'm not keyholing my cymbals.
Yeah. Totally.
So, I know that struggle. I learned it actually from a drum teacher that I had.
Oh, really? To just carry stuff? I learned it from just being SOL, like playing somewhere and just everything's not working. And I was like, well, I'm never going to let myself be in this position again.
Isn't your favorite thing when you get to the venue and there's like cymbal stand backline, but like the cymbal stands don't have like at least just the flat piece to rest your cymbal on?
That's America's hardcore. That might be the worst kit that exists on the planet. The one that backlines all those shows. It's gotten better over the years, but like you can watch the video. I played drums for Demolition and Mil-Spec 2017 America's Hardcore. It was like one of the best shows I had played in my life up to that point. We did these covers that people were like super stoked on. People I admire a lot are like moshing. Like you can watch this video. It's like it's really has a good feeling. Maybe just because I played it, I don't know. But the entire time, in between songs, during songs, like cymbals are like falling, like everything's falling over the entire time due to no fault of my own. But like I am like working, like adjusting stuff while playing. Like you could watch it, you'll see exactly like the panic on my face. But yeah, that was like the worst kit I've ever played in my life.
I love that. There's a squat here that I've had to play at a couple of times called Trackside.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've heard of it. The kit is bad. It's really bad. It's like the worst kit I think I've ever played on. Like I played on it 3 times, and 2 out of the 3 times, the reso head on the kick drum is like completely just blown out. Like it's incredible.
that's funny.
Yeah, so a lot of bands will either bring their own kit, or I just said I'm not playing. Like I'm not playing that venue. I can't do it.
That's funny. My new move is if we're playing out of town, I'll just like, go for a 3-point shot and just be like, hey, listen, I don't want to bring anything. Like, can I just show up with sticks and I'll be okay? Sometimes people say yes. You'd be surprised. But I like hate flying with stuff. But in Japan, I didn't bring anything aside from drumsticks, and I played on some funny gear, but like it was better than having to lug stuff around.
Yeah. Did you play on any Chang cymbals?
Chain cymbals? Is that like a brand?
Yeah.
No. It was all like Western stuff, like Sabian, Zildjian, stuff like that.
I had a friend that lived in Shanghai for a while, and he was like all of the venues had like drums and cymbals backline like in the venue.
Yeah, I think it should be like that. I think it should be like that. Like, why not? If you're a venue, invest in some of that stuff. I get why you wouldn't want to invest in breakables, maybe, but it doesn't hurt to have a set around. Toronto style has cymbals.
They do, that's right. Which I think Michelle helped get. Like they did a fundraiser and basically were able to fund that kit.
You might as well. Like, it's not very much money to get a kit that's okay. Like, I think, and even with cymbals, like you can find stuff on, Facebook Marketplace for like $350. Be set up, be fine.
It's like not
for a place that size.
It's not the worst shit. You know what I mean?
Totally doable.
Take advice. Marathon. So, The new Mil-Spec stuff is very cool. I really like it. It's kind of
Thank you.
weird leaving of the youth crew-y kind of like posy-core vibe. Do you feel that way?
I don't know. I think like if you listen to all of the releases in order, there's kind of a logical through line. But I will admit, like some of those songs are only kind of hardcore songs, especially when you get to the end, right? And you've got that like 8-minute electronic track. We're pulling from like wells of like New Order and Leatherface and like non-hardcore stuff. But at the same time, like it's a lot of the same. Like the opening track is very much, I think, like a standard Mil-Spec song. But yeah, totally. I mean, there was a bit of a progression. I hope it wasn't alienating, but it definitely we call that stuff like treats. We have lots of our treats. With our veggies being our hardcore song, treats being like whatever else we're doing. That record's like nothing but treats and excess. But it represents like that was all written at a time when we really couldn't be doing anything outside. And so maybe there was some element of it that was like wishful and, imagining ourselves up on a stage, like while everything was locked down, like, or something like that. Maybe that's why it's so excessive, but I don't know. I don't know what to say about that.
Well, I feel like reception wise, it's definitely reached. So the people that I know that like hardcore a lot and are into like more than just hardcore, they love it. Like I talk to people, if it's like a music fan, then they're like, that's one of the best hardcore records I've heard all year. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds sick. Especially if you see it live, it sounds very, very close to the recording, which is always good. But then I know some like capital H hardcore people that are like, it's not hardcore, it's fucking rock music.
I'd love to know their names and addresses. I'm just joking around. But no, dude, this is actually something that we've experienced, right? Like your entire life as a musician, you kind of gauge how well your set is going by how many people are like, going crazy, like moshing. And everybody, when we play like new songs that don't have as many mosh parts, people are still engaged. People aren't leaving the room. They're watching, they're bobbing their heads, they're singing along. A couple people are moshing, but if you're touring with Distort, which is what we do, it's hard to watch their set and people are going absolutely crazy. Then we play and it's like just as many people are watching, but like it's not that same sort of reaction. Mm-hmm. And so, I've come up with a lot of like coping mechanisms to kind of get over that. And like, 99% of bands that exist that have like diehard fans don't experience that level of like crowd engagement. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like most bands, I could list off a ton of rock bands that are just huge, that have like fans that absolutely love them, that people don't like go insane for, right? And then also you think about mosh pits where you're like, okay, a show's 100 people. If you have 20 moshers at a 100-person show, it's going to feel like the most insane show ever. So really, like, don't beat yourself up over it. And we know people who are in like shoegaze bands or like Spite House, for example. Do they get a lot of moshers? It's not really conducive to it, but everybody's watching them. Everybody's engaged. So we kind of had to shift some of our expectations from some of those early days to what we're doing now. But I wouldn't be surprised if that might be as far as we go in terms of like being out there. Because you can't go in that direction forever. Like we all like the same sort of stuff that we liked when we first started the band, which was Shelter, Straight Ahead, like all of that like 80s and 90s stuff. And, Youth Crew stuff, New York hardcore, and then some stuff that kind of draws the line. And is like a little bit more out there. That has never changed. Like all of our influences are pretty much the same. We just kind of went a little bit further with it. But I don't anticipate it getting more out there and weird where it is now. And in fact, I'd love to write another heavy song to like watch people go bananas, But it is funny progressing and then seeing your audience change over time. But I like fucked up a lot. They're like one of my favorite bands. And they went through it probably more than anybody, which is, if you think about where they started and how crazy their shows were to what they're doing now, it's like the same people making pretty much the same music, pulling from a lot of the same sort of wells, but It's not the same sort of thing. And you've aged. Like, think about it. When I started jamming with Matt, I was 18 or 19, and now I'm 29. And so this has been a decade of, and the band hasn't been around for that long. Like, our first show was the end of 2016, but we were jamming for a few years before that, just kind of working things out. And so if it didn't change, and we were a band for that long and have grown, and, you know, some people have gotten married and had children and really, really matured as people, if the music didn't change, that would be weird.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. I think, like, the audience is maturing, the music is maturing. I hope that we don't alienate people, but at the same time, I'll just keep making music that I really like, and hopefully people like it too. But, you know, that's not why, you know, we're doing anything that we do. But I'd be lying if I said I haven't noticed, because I have noticed that the response is different.
I mean, so I've seen y'all play 3 times that I can think of. The Madhouse set was very, very cool because y'all played, I think, right under Béton Armé, or like within 3 bands of Béton Armé.
Yeah, we co-headlined the show.
That's right. So a lot of the same crowd that's hardcore but also mature, like, they like the Oi stuff now too, because apparently the closer you get to 30, the more you like Oi music. I don't know what that is, but it's a real thing. So they went off. I think the set went really well, but then seeing in a hardcore context, more so with like Collateral and Distort, and there was another band that was on that run with y'all, and I can't remember who it was.
One Track Mind.
One Track. No. Oh yeah. Well, the three bands on tour was you guys, Distort, and Collateral.
Distort and Collateral. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's right. One Track Mind was sick as well. Shout out Kev.
Yeah.
So then seeing like all the kind of older moshers from Montreal that don't come out to every show anymore, and it takes me back to when I got into hardcore, the same mosh style, the posse like 2-stepping, which is like very, very sentimental and reminiscent for me. So I really do like seeing that, because the set was more tailored to, I feel like, that crowd in that context. Y'all still played some new stuff, but like it was definitely a lot more like to the core. But then playing the 3 tracks at St. Catharines with all the homies there, it was like, oh shit, this is a hardcore band.
Yeah, and when you get that big of a catalog, like at this point we got 2 full lengths, a 7-inch, 3 tapes. Like, you can pick and choose to kind of suit the audience. We did a way different set earlier in the day. We did like mostly new stuff. I'd love to do just the new album front to back, including the electronic song. I would love to do something like that. But yeah, and I'm always advocating for like playing random stuff. I'm always like, yo, let's play this song from the Triple B comp from like a few years ago, or let's do, you know, something from the side B of Changes, because I don't know, I have fun doing all these different stuff. But I love the new stuff too. I like it all. I think it all fits together, and but it's and you know what? At the same time, there's never been more listenership than there has been now. But if you were to see us play now versus 2018, it's like a totally different vibe. Like, people would mosh like a lot, and now it's like everybody's engaged, and the people who like us are older than they were there, because it's a lot of the same people, and people buy more stuff than they did back then, because our fan base now is older and has like a little bit more disposable income or something like that, you know? So it's funny how things change, but it's natural. It's okay to get older. It's okay to mature. And it's also okay to keep, like, to write a Youth Crew song still. I think that's fine. And like our like, everybody in the band has a very diverse and different background, you know, ages, what city they grew up in, all sorts of stuff like that. And when you put all that together and you say yes and to every idea that everybody brings to the table and try and bring it to its natural conclusion, you end up doing stuff that, you know, is kind of interesting, or at least I think it's kind of interesting, even though it might not resonate with everybody. It's okay.
So, man, there's so many like gold nuggets in there for bands approaching songwriting and things like that. But I agree with you. I think like my taste is very different than it was 10 years ago, even though I haven't been in the same band for 10 years. But I'm sure if Bruiserweight continued to be a band for 10 years, we would change the way that we write a lot.
Yeah,
probably more
for sure.
Honestly,
for sure. Yeah, hey, that doesn't surprise me because you go from heavy, you do a little bit more oi stuff, you get in, and then you end up like it's so funny. You think about like what's around and what's active and what people do over time, and it's very interesting. Like a band like Homefront, for example, like that definitely isn't their first band. I don't know those guys at all, but what they're doing now is probably like way different than what they did 10 years ago. And I just I feel really lucky. I feel like I found the musicians, the people who I'm with now. I really have no desire to work with anybody else. So as long as they want to continue to do it, I will do it until I'm like 60. Like I'm honestly being serious. I'll continue to make records with these guys. I don't care what it sounds like. The band name will stay the same as long as they want to do it. And, if we end up sounding like the Beatles or something in 20 years, that's okay with me. But we're all really, really close. And that's the thing that's going to stay constant is who it is that's doing it. And our minds are constant, obviously changing over time. But that's why, like, you won't see me Mil-Spec's over and I'm going to do a heavy band now, or Mil-Spec's over, I'm going to do a band that sounds like the Goo Goo Dolls now. It's like, no, we'll use that banner as like the place to do all the creativity.
That's sick. I like that a lot, which it definitely makes sense because I saw the Best Wishes and freaking Wild Side show, and it's literally just all the same members rotating around. Like, so you guys are just every band in that area, I guess.
That was true at a time. It's starting to change. Like even last night when I went to the Botfly show with Ankle Biter, like 90% of the people at the show I don't know, which I would love to change. I would love to know everybody in that room, but yeah, no, tides are changing. I'm not saying we're going on the out, but like there's a lot more people involved. But for a few years, that was definitely true. It was like we were doing everything, but yeah, no, not anymore. Thank God, because it's not sustainable.
When you have to play drums in 6 bands.
I've done it. And I mean, like, it's not sustainable in terms of like the scene can't grow and flourish if it's just the same group of people contributing. You need to have like everybody. It takes everybody. It takes like a million bands to make like a scene really thrive.
Yeah.
And it's never been bigger now in Toronto ever than it is now.
That's what I hear the same case in Montreal because I've only been here for 6 years and people are
I
like,
agree.
So many people booking shows and trying to make bands now that it's like we almost need more bands to fit the shows that people are trying to book.
And you need more of a population too. Like if Montreal had like a million more people, that would probably be really good for the hardcore scene.
But we please don't come here. Please don't. I don't want my rent to go up.
Well, let's just say it expands outwards.
Yeah, let's do that. Go outside.
No economic consequences. You get the exact same mix of people that you have now. No economic consequences. We get a million more. The shows are like awesome because I think you guys have set up a really, really amazing foundation upon which to build. Like there's a lot of good promoters. You've got nothing but good venues. Like there's so many good venues in Montreal. You are very, very fortunate. Toronto right now, feeling really, really good. Like I don't want to rock the boat or anything, but like there's a lot more promoters. Like even Greg used to be the only person that does stuff. And now there's like a lot of people. And I'm sure he's happy because carrying that load alone is like a lot of pressure, right? So it's good when other people can let go of some of that and it continues to flourish on its own. It's self-sustaining. I hope it just continues to grow because, I mean, when more people are at every single show, it makes more people be excited about doing stuff, right? So it's good.
Yeah. Shout out to also Matt and Connor for doing the Niagara hardcore stuff because that scene over in St. Catharines, I mean, that show we played was like the best Ontario show I think we played as a band, which is sick.
That's awesome.
So
yeah, that stuff's cool. And playing in a Legion really calls back to like, my first hardcore shows, being in Legions, lights on hardcore, I call it, like all those lights on hardcore gigs back in the day, which is funny. You know what? This is a Montreal thing. I saw Blind Witness, at a lights on hardcore show at a Moose Lodge in Oshawa, and there was maybe like 20 people there. Like there was like nobody there
for Blind Witness.
Anyway, yeah, Blind Witness. But you got to remember, like, why would it make sense for them to play my town? Like they just shouldn't. It doesn't make sense at all. In Newcastle, I saw Chelsea Grin and Attila play Newcastle, and there was like a lot of people there because people went. But you got to think, Newcastle has a population of like 50,000, and these bands are massive. Like in in comparison. It really doesn't make any sense. Naysayer used to come through Oshawa and like nobody would be there. Now nobody comes because word spreads. But like everybody used to come through back in the day. It was really, really funny.
Attila playing in Newcastle cracks me up just because they're from like pretty close to where I'm from.
Oh, in Georgia or whatever?
Yeah. Like I remember when they would play the All Ages venue and it was off of the demo and it was so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny to think about those days. Like that stuff doesn't happen. Like bands don't play Oshawa at all. I would love to set something up here, but like everybody left. I'm the only one remaining, pretty much. There's not much going on. It's unfortunate.
Moving to the city, or
is that where people went? Yeah. I mean, people. There's no work here, right? Like, there's nothing that would keep anybody interesting in the city.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Y'all writing any music?
Yeah. I mean, early stages, right? Like, Dan will send me voice memo riffs, and we've gotten together like only a couple times to kind of go through things. But like he's pretty busy, and once this snowball starts rolling, it won't be long before we've got a lot of material. So, yeah. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to get back in the studio someday, work on some stuff. Like there's nothing definitive. Yeah. We have some general ideas about like formats and things like, okay, maybe we're going to do an EP or maybe we're going to do this or that or the other thing. And I would be not being honest if I was to speculate there, but we're just going to continue to write new stuff. And it's all, I don't know if I had to characterize some of the sound, like there are some new, pulling from some new wells, like, we saw Quicksand together a little while ago. So there's like a little bit of that, although there always kind of is, a little bit of Bad Brains, a little bit of Super Touch, a little bit of like Unwound and bands like that, like Fugazi sort of stuff, but also still pulling from the same like New York hardcore wells that we always pull from. So it'll be that plus be some of the same stuff. I can't. It's way too early to talk about it, but yeah. No, I'm super. I love writing new stuff, and I can't take much to the credit because mostly Dan and Matt. But I'm always there from the beginning, giving like funny ideas that sometimes make it into a song and like make something a little bit more interesting. But I can't really play guitar, so I can't add too much.
You just do like little voice riffs, like bow to bow.
This is a bit of a funny story. Like I do record voice memos and I'll send it to Dan and be like, can you play something like this? And about a month ago, I was like, okay, I came up with this really awesome idea for a breakdown. And so I record it. I have it literally on my phone. I'm recording it. I'm humming it. I'm like walking through downtown Toronto, like in my office, like in my, work clothes, like recording this thing. And then I send it to him and I realized that it's literally just the Outburst intro. I was like, and I didn't think about it at the time, but like, yeah, I just like rewrote the Outburst intro. So we can't use that, obviously, unfortunately.
Just change like 3 of the notes and you can use it.
Well, now we talked about it, so I definitely can't use it.
It's on record. They know.
Yeah.
They're going to know.
I saw Outburst once at somebody's wedding.
Like not playing. They were just there.
No, like they were playing. We went down to Boston. And this is awesome. We went down to Boston to record the DDM sessions, which is the one where we did the cover of Tragically Hip. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of some versions of songs from Marathon before Marathon came out, but after Marathon was recorded. And DDM was like a really cool label from Boston, which the people from Zeal did. So Gil, the singer of like Free Spirit and Big Contest, and now does solo stuff, and Jack, who's also in Free Spirit and in Zeal and a number of other bands. They would do like kind of esoteric music on this label. And so we wanted to like make it a little bit interesting. We did a version of a song from the demo that was like a little bit more out there. And Greg, like the singer mental who runs our label, was at the studio all day. He's like, yeah, there's this like wedding after party. That guy Bergoli got married, who was in crunch time. And I hear that Outburst might be playing, something like that. So everybody else stuck around because they had to continue to record. But as a drummer, you go first. Like, hell yeah, I'm going to go. So we went, and it was like 20 people in this room. An Outburst played, and like the bride and groom were like in their gear. Like, you know, there was a woman in a veil, like pitting to Thin Ice. It was
nuts.
awesome. And it's filmed or something, like it exists somewhere. And that night at the show, I got clowned on so hard on Twitter or Reddit or something because somebody zoomed into the background of a photo that was at that show, and there was like, embarrassingly, I had a free New Yorker tote bag. Okay. And I hung it up on a coat rack, and somebody was like, what the hell? Like, why is there somebody at a hardcore show with a New Yorker tote bag? And it got zoomed, and, you know, I got clowned on by like all of the internet for a minute for something that small. And I think that's where tote bag hardcore like kind of came into effect, which, you know, now that I've said it out loud without thinking, you know, we've been typecast. Just okay, whatever, I'll own it. I'll own it. We made tote bags twice, so whatever, I'll own it. You buy stuff, you want to carry it around, there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay.
Let me tell you, I carry a tote bag all the time now. You want to know why? Because I'm old, and I find things that I want to buy, and I just have something to put it in.
There you go. So, whatever. We made tote bags.
If I like
more tote bag hardcore and TBHC, and that's okay.
TBHC, own it. I would. I mean, I wouldn't be mad. Call me tote bag hardcore. I don't give a shit. So, whatever. Are y'all gonna continue being on Locking Out?
Yeah, I think it's just a great fit. Like, we've been approached before, you know, by others who are interested kind of in marathon. And really, I just don't think we could offer to a label anything that is like, they would require too much of us. Like, we are all busy. We don't play that often. And we probably don't sell too well. Like, we sell decently well, but, you know, not well enough for something bigger, I would say. And they would just get let down. Like, the last thing we want to do is be super active on social media, like making Instagram reels and stuff like that, and really selling and doing all that stuff. We don't have the time, we don't have the energy or the interest, and that stuff doesn't resonate with us. And so I feel like from the conversations we had, that would kind of be the expectation from others. And so I think it's just a perfect fit. Like, they're not that active, we're not that active. Aesthetically, it just makes sense. Like, they're our friends. They've been with us since like pretty much day one. So yeah, I don't think there's anybody else that I would want to be with. You know, that might change. Like, the odd thing might come up here and there, but like, you know, we're happy.
It's like
and it's cool. Like, I love that label. I looked up to it so much growing up. Like, when I was in high school and university, like, all of my favorite bands were on that label. And so to be on that, you know, getting that co-sign is really amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm happy about it. I don't want to be making Instagram reels and like having to do like being told, okay, you've got to play on this a lot. Like, no, I want to play when it makes sense. When somebody who I really care about asks, I don't want to go like somewhere I don't want to be, you know, stuff like that. It's like my creative fun outlet. So I don't want to ruin that by like having expectations from anybody.
So I really respect that. I know that some people might think it's like cool guy or like, you know, I don't know, too cool for school to like not be super active on social media and be like private about yourself and only play what you want to play because this is what you want to do. I respect that shit. Creates high demand, and then it's just you doing what you want to do. Like, it's sick. Like, Locking Out makes sense for y'all to be on. Y'all sound like a Locking Out band. That's it. Like, that's cool.
Yeah. But like, I wouldn't even want to speculate about other labels. Yeah.
Like, that's on a flat spot, they're going to be like, you got to go tour like 4 weeks every 3 months. Like, why would you want to do that?
Which works for people. And we, you know, for the record, we never talk to them, but like, you know, I don't know those people, but like that works for a lot of people, and a lot of people would be super happy to have that opportunity, and we would just squander it. Not because we're not interested, but just because we're not interested, not because we don't think it's cool, but just it just doesn't work personally. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can speak on that. Like, people thinking it's like, whatever, you're trying to be mysterious, trying to create demand. It's like, no, like That's not it at all. We've thought about doing an Instagram. We're not like opposed to it or anything like that. It's just, and it's not like intentional. We never sat down and were like, we're not going to do this. But when we started, when the first demo came out in 16, like not every band had an Instagram at that point. It wasn't entirely a requirement. And that kind of changed over time. And then it was like, we've been doing this for a little bit of time. We don't really need to do this. Like, do we want to, like, once you open the floodgates, you can't stop it. And it becomes like a thing. And then every mistake you ever make, every post is like immortalized, which, you know, we talked about this podcast at length. And I was like, you know, wanting to be careful with, you know, stuff that I said and, you know, how I was portrayed and all that sort of stuff, because everything online is there forever.
Yep.
People don't think about that. But like, yeah, with an Instagram, like, you really gotta, and you're engaging with people, you know, stuff. Most people have a really good experience, right? And I'm not saying that we wouldn't, but it just, that's not something we've ever gotten around to doing. And it's not intentional. We're not like, we don't want to have social media because we want to be mysterious. Like, I used to really love like Youth Attack, right? That label, which is like very mysterious, you know, now has an Instagram, but at a time didn't, and would just drop stuff once a year and it would sell out like instantly, like Supreme and stuff like that. And it's never like by design. I think it's just, it's all people that do it as a hobby, and a lot of people tend to really like it. So in the case of Youth Attack, like the demand outpaces the supply and like stuff sells out instantly. And because that dynamic exists, they don't need to be out selling, because they'll do runs of tapes of like 25. They know that they'll sell them all. So it's like, why put more effort in if I can't satisfy it? Like, if we put out a page and really solicited, you know, shows, we would get more than we can handle. And we don't want to be in a position where we have to say no to stuff. Not that I think we're like hot shit or anything like that, but like, it would just be now, if we solicited it more, it would happen. And we can't even handle the stuff that we're doing now. Like, we were pretty busy in the beginning of the year, and, you know, it was like a lot, like too much. Mm-hmm. So that's really it. It's about just managing time and stuff.
Yeah. So it's not about being, you know, international band of mystery or...
No. Couldn't be farther. And in fact, like, the fact that we don't have it has made our lives more difficult than it has made it easy. Yeah. But, you know, we have, like, you know, just communicating with people is tough. People don't know where to find you. Like, you feel like a mean person when somebody's like, oh, I took a photo of your band. Like, can I tag your Instagram? It's like we don't have one. We're not trying to be, you know, you always feel like you have to explain it. But at the same time, you're like not trying to do anything weird. It's just, it's a time thing. It's like, but it does have its downsides, big time. It does have its downsides. And who knows, that might change.
Could happen later this year. Look out, everybody. Mil-Spec's got an Instagram, and they're posting crazy photos, like of Jacob on drums.
Yeah, unhinged stuff. Just a meme page. I would like that, but anyway.
Yeah, like shit posting. Just it's Mil-Spec, just shit posts.
I would be I should do that without the band's consent and just do it.
Just literally just start doing shit posting, but nobody knows who you are.
Yeah. And then it comes out and it's like this whole big thing. Yeah.
Mil-Spec official, but it's just offensive shitpost memes.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I get behind that. I like triggering people. I'm not going to say that. That's off the record. Jacob, this has been wonderful. We've talked for so long. We had a pee break. This has been great.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it was good. I hope that, I don't know. I hope this went as well as you thought it would. I know we're kind of all over the place. I hope people enjoy it. Kind of valuable. Whatever.
Thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate you, and I cannot wait to see Mil-Spec again, or at least just run into you at a show.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we get a chance to play together again, and hopefully I'll be in Montreal pretty soon. We don't have that much on the docket. I don't know when this is going to come out, but like in a couple of weeks, we're doing Syracuse with Gorilla Biscuits. And then, later in the summer, we've got one of the Power Trip shows coming up. So aside from that, we don't have a lot going on, but, hope some of your listeners are at either of those. I know Syracuse isn't too far from Montreal, so.
Yeah,
Maybe you'll be there.
we've got friends in Syracuse. We also have friends in. Is the power trip in Texas or is it in Toronto?
No. It's in Texas. Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
We got friends in Texas, so it's gonna be great. And y'all are doing all that without an Instagram. Who the fuck would have thought? Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beans and Breakdowns. I want to say a huge thanks to Jake for hanging out on the podcast. Be sure to check out Marathon, the newest release from Mil-Spec, available on all listening platforms, and keep an eye out if they have any shows near you. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. You can find out more information about the podcast by following us on Instagram at Beans and Breakdowns or on the web at beansandbreakdowns.com. Until next week, be sure to stay caffeinated and wake the fuck up.